Gotta
But
touch some baseball before I let you go. You're gonna be at
yeah,
the Cleveland Guardians game against the Yankees today. So before we get to some quick Guards talk, I just want to ask you, your opinion on the whole betting situation with Shohei Ohtani, because we do have to cover it. Now, there have been more details that have come out since, the last time I spoke about it, that mainly being that Ohtani essentially got $16 million stolen from him out of his bank account by his former interpreter, which that's the only part of the story where I'm a little bit suspect on Otani's part, because I don't know how you don't realize that $16 million is missing. Um,
right.
but I think the fact that he did not bet on baseball is a big development in this story, because I have said if he bet on baseball, I don't care if Otani's connected to it or not, that's a problem.
Yeah,
Um, you can't bet on your own sport. Right now, it essentially looks like that yes, Otani is queen. And obviously, nobody wants to be ripped off or stolen from him. But
sure.
there is a part of me where I'm like, he had to know something about this, right?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And the whole thing with Otani is this is my thing. This is how I've thought of it. Like the way that I check my bank account every day, I don't think millionaires, especially a guy like him who's a half a billionaire at this point, I don't know if they're as locked in on that sort of like, I'm going to check my account, even if it's once a month or whatever. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, the only reason I could see you not noticing that is because you have just other people handling your money, right? I mean,
Yes.
Otani probably has an entire team of people, accountants and such, handling his money. And, when he wants to make a purchase, he's probably not checking his bank account to make sure he has enough
Yeah.
money in there. You know what
But
I'm saying?
if
Like,
that's the case, and there's other people outside of his interpreter that are, wouldn't you would think that unless they're all in on it together, that they
that's a
would
great
bring
point.
it to his attention?
See, now that's where the hole is here, and that's where I'm almost not convinced that Otani didn't know anything. It was very like sneakily suspicious how quick
Mhm.
this was resolved. It
And
was pretty
and
much
and
three
by the way,
weeks,
the
right?
original story that they came out with was not cohesive.
Yep,
There was one story that Otani said, "Oh, he stole money from me," and the next story he came out and said, "No, he has to borrow money." So that did not add up.
yep,
Um,
yep,
I don't think for this year he's gonna get in trouble. Which by the way, I think for baseball, this could be a potential disaster.
yeah,
Um, because if it is come to pass that Otani knew anything about this situation, the only thing saving him is that he did not bet on baseball, according to the feds.
yep,
Because
yep,
if he bet on baseball, I don't care how big of a star you are. I think Otani might have been kicked out of the game. And I
yeah,
don't think I don't think I'm reaching for that, because you cannot bet on your own sport. Nobody involved on your team can bet. It ruins the integrity of fairness of the game.
yep,
And for somebody who was around baseball so much, obviously knowing about the Angels and the fact that Trout and Ohtani, were both injured at the time. And if you were such a gambler that you bet on random soccer games that you didn't even know about, you're not going to tell me you're not going to try to make it up by betting on something that you know that I don't believe either.
yep. Absolutely, and I 100% agree. And I'm looking now, 19,000 bets made between 2021 and 2024. Um,
How could not one of those be on baseball?
Right, absolutely, and that's the exact thing I was thinking too. And I even saw some like Twitter sleuths like looking at some of the Angels performances where Otani in certain situations would just throw a meatball down the plate, or in just the so un Otani way of just like almost giving up the game. And it almost did look sort of like, oh shoot, is this purposeful? Like, was he doing this on purpose? But if they say that he didn't bet on any baseball, I think at this point, even if it comes out that he did know about it, it's sort of like ironclad that he's fine in terms of the league. Now, how
Yeah,
fans think
no, I
about
I I
him,
agree. But again, the big story will be here. Did he bet on baseball?
right?
That so before I get you out of here, Man, even though the last 2 games have been tough, I've been impressed by the Guardians' early season outlook. I really like Stephen Vogt. Now, some people on MLB Network have compared him to Francona 2.0, which obviously is a reach. You're not going to be that, but I do see
Yeah.
some similar qualities in him as a manager as
Mhm.
Francona. I am a little worried now that Bieber's out for the season. Is that starting pitching going to be able to hold up? I don't think the run support is going to be able to last, but I do think that this Guardians team, like, they should win the division. Minnesota's down this year. I don't trust Detroit. Kansas City's still rebuilding. The White Sox are a mess. Like, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, no, me too. And I think it's the perfect time to be cautiously optimistic because you mentioned those other teams. Detroit, yeah, they're kind of hot right now, but I don't think they're gonna withstand that. Even Kansas City, I think Kansas City might have 8, 9, or 10 wins right now. I don't think that's something that they're going to hold up either. Now, um, one thing I will say about the Guardians is I'm very worried about their starting pitching. Like I was at the day game yesterday of the day night doubleheader, and Carrasco cannot, he simply can't find the strike zone. Like hitters aren't, and the stuff that's out of the strike zone that should be swing and misses or should be pretty close, it's just not close at all. Hitters aren't swinging at it. And it's almost like everything in the zone, the Yankees just mashed yesterday. I mean, we're lucky that we didn't lose both of those games by 6 runs. I'm worried about the pitching. I think they need to go get another arm. Like, and everyone's sort of screaming for them to get another bat. I think what's more important right now is another arm, like another 1, 2, or 3 pitcher that can come in right away and you can just plug into your lineup, right? I don't know what that looks like. I don't know who they're going to have to trade. Probably some prospects that would disappoint some people. But the Guardians have showed that they're not afraid to trade those prospects. They're not afraid to trade like a Will Benson, who I think would have been a really decent player for us. They're not afraid to trade names like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if like a Chase DeLauter or somebody like that was moved. Um, and DeLauter's performance in spring training, just like as much as I want him up here, it almost proved to me like, hey, this could be a piece that we move here. Obviously, he's still pretty young and he's in
Yeah,
Double A,
and
but
I mean with baseball, and I don't blame the Guardians for this because the system's so broken. You
yeah,
sending a guy down just because of service time, which
yeah,
again I never blame the team for because I may sound, and you use this term earlier in the show, but for lack of a better term, dickish. But
yeah,
I am always on the side of the general manager of the team. I don't want my guys to be making any money. I don't care about your financial situation. I want to give myself as much cap flexibility, even though there is no cap in baseball. But I want to give myself
I
as
get
much
what you mean though. Yeah,
flexibility as I possibly can. Like I've never understood the fans argument of, oh, he deserves that much money. I'm like, well, I'd rather just pay him $1 million. you know,
right, exactly,
um, which
exactly.
which is why, like, yes, Jose did take that incredible discount to stay with the Guardians, but I'm like, okay, so great. So either you stay with the Guardians or you go to the Yankees and make $500 million, and guess what? It doesn't matter because as we'll probably see with the Dodgers this year, even though they're a great lineup and they could win the World Series, in baseball, it really doesn't matter. It is
Yep,
really the ultimate team sport. You have great pitching, you have a great bullpen and timely hitting from multiple guys who can hit for power and average. That's your formula to win a World Series, not
yep,
create the best fantasy lineup on paper ever. And, because baseball is a weird sport. I mean, you hit a ball, in play 30% of the time. You're a Hall of
yep,
Famer.
yep, exactly. And I want to, if we can, finish up by saying this
Yeah,
about
go ahead.
Stephen Vogt here. Um, I sort of disagree with the fact that he's Terry Francona 2.0. I think he's such a refreshing face. Obviously, he just stopped playing last year. I think he really relates to our young guys in the fact that he's forcing aggression. We are running the bases like crazy right now. We're stealing bases. We have an emphasis on stealing bases.
And by the way,
Um,
just getting contact on the ball. We don't strike out. It reminds me of the team 2 years ago.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so glad you brought that up. That 2022 team was not really striking out. They're putting themselves into hitter counts. They're hitting the ball singles, doubles. I mean, at one point in the beginning of the season, the Guardians had the most extra base hits in baseball, and it's because they're getting in these hitter friendly counts, and they've got these base runners who are going to steal second no matter what. Like you had Josh Naylor trying to steal second yesterday, which kind of pissed me off. But at the same time, it's like I am glad that we're trying to do these things. And the other thing about Stephen Vogt is Terry Francona had such a connection with certain players. Miles Straw, no matter what, Miles Straw was going to be starting in center field. Some certain pitchers, we had Brian Shaw for the longest time. It's like he had these connecting to players that he just couldn't get rid of. And I
Well,
don't
that's
think
because he
Stephen Vogt
played
has that.
poker with Brian Shaw, the one you
Right,
know,
exactly,
poker stories.
exactly,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? So no, I
That's
I I
exactly it.
agree. As you know, it's so I always called Francona the Belichick of baseball, and
That's a great point. Yeah,
the ironic thing about it is it's almost the same there with Belichick. Now, I don't think Tito got as outdated as Belichick, but obviously, and a lot of it had to do with the injuries. But we will always commend Francona for keeping this team within striking distance every year. Even last year, at a certain point, they were getting back
yeah,
into the division
yeah,
till they fell apart again.
yeah.
So, you know,
Absolutely, and I agree. I think it's just such a benefit that he's the manager that we have now, and it seems like he could be the manager here for the next 5, 10 years, which is great.
yes,
Like I think
I
that's such a good thing.
I completely agree. Like that clip from the Bransworth podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Bransworth podcast right here on YouTube.